Welcome everybody to our episode 10. Our episode 10?
Our
I've never figured out how to intro one of these. Welcome everybody. We just wing it every week. Welcome to the Eyes and Ears live stream / podcast. Today we're going to be talking about some fun AI stuff because AI is on everybody's minds lately.
Yeah.
Not really. Maybe not.
No, it's
yeah.
there.
Sound off in the comments if you're here.
Pew, pew,
And
pew.
yeah, we got a few already. Kevin Gardner, I've got a bad feeling about this. I'd sing a song that I'm thinking of, but I'm not going to. Welcome, Kevin. Thanks for joining. Van Gool. Hello, everyone. Hello. Thank you for joining. And man, what movie is that line from? I've got a bad feeling about this.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
I mean, is it a James Cameron movie? Kind of sounds like it. I should know this off the top of my head, but yeah, sorry, Kevin. I'm letting everybody down right now. So yeah,
I can hear it though. I'm pretty sure that's how the line is delivered. I got a bad feeling about this. So,
yeah, I mean, it could be,
not coming to me.
could be Ghostbusters or who knows? But Kevin does, and he will let us know. So yeah, this is our weekly live stream that is also a podcast. So while you are, or you may be watching this live right now on YouTube's, on either my channel or Elon's channel, every Wednesday, this episode is also live on all the podcast platforms where you get your podcasts. Is that how you say it? I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you can't make it live, you can also watch it on YouTube or listen if you want to. You can also listen to the podcast anywhere you can get your podcasts. So we appreciate everybody that listens, watches, and joins every week. We really appreciate you guys so much. It feels good to kind of connect with everybody and talk about some things that we maybe don't necessarily make full videos on or whatever. This is kind of one of those things where Elon and I were talking yesterday about it, and we were like trying to, I was like, hey, maybe we should talk about AI, in home theater and how that pertains to that and the ups and downs of all that. And that sounded like a pretty damn good topic. So here we are.
I mean, it also kind of stems off of the fact that lately, Marquez Brownlee, the biggest tech reviewing YouTuber right now, recently, just last week and then yesterday, reviewed the Humane AI Pin and also the Rabbit R1 AI assistant. And both of those, he just threw them under the bus, just said they were horrible. Because they don't really do anything that monumental that you couldn't already just do on your phone.
Yeah.
So,
and there was this, speaking of Marquez Keith Brownlee, that is his middle name, by the way. Anybody remember that reveal when he hit like 10 million subscribers or whatever? No, he was talking about, I can't remember if it was an article or video where him talking about being a reviewer, do bad reviews like kill a company if you're like kind of influence is big enough? And it kind of reminded me of the whole kind of Tecton, Aaron's Audio Corner stuff that's going on. It's like I don't, and by remind me of that, it's unfortunate, like it's awful, like that Aaron's going through what he's going through for no reason other than being honest. Like that was his whole thing. But no, I don't think that bad reviews from like big kind of tech companies kill products. I think just crappy products in general kill companies. So Kevin Gardner real quick asks, Brad, what's a brew of choice tonight? This is just a standard Yingling. I was gonna grab the Stella, but it's just Yingling tonight. So, yeah. So one of my 2 favorite beers. Can you guess the other one? I just said it. Also, real quick, Links1 says that just wanted to say, love the home theater revamp videos. Thank you so much.
Yay!
Those were definitely a labor of love. Yeah, thank you. Would you? I mean, I my wife made the joke that when I said in the beginning that I'm not trying to make this a super polished piece or anything like that, and then she's like, and then you go on to show this like crazy B-roll at the end of all these like cinematic moving shots. She's like, what the hell? I was like, she's like, what did your like really high production value quality videos look like? I was like, that's a good question. I can't never not do as much as I can do. I don't have that in me. So then Elon, you know, all too well too. But yeah, so you know, we kind of beat around the bush a little bit before we get started. I always like to get kind of the little things out of the way. Just say, hey, Elon, how you doing? What you've been up to? You watch anything lately? So yeah, anything?
Yeah, I just posted a short today, or you know, Instagram Reel, TikTok, whatever your favorite platform is. I got Andor. Several Disney Plus titles dropped on 4K Blu-ray today, but Andor was the only one I cared about because you know, Obi-Wan was also one of them, and I don't care to own that one. I'll just watch that on Disney Plus if I really wanted to, but I don't really want to watch it again. I didn't really like it.
Yeah.
But Andor was by far my favorite of all the Star Wars series that are on Disney Plus right now. Mandalorian's a close second, but Andor just blew them all away in my mind because it's just phenomenal storytelling, acting, set pieces. Because normally if what I'm going to do now that I have it on 4K Blu-ray is I'm going to do a review. Because even Bro Cinco said, you know, is the Andor review ready?
I saw
LOL.
that. I saw that.
It's not yet because I've watched the first 3 episodes as of this morning. But that's the thing. Normally if I do a comparison, I just kind of seek out like some action scenes or like pivotal scenes that kind of stood out to me while I watched it on Disney Plus, and then just compare the Disney Plus with the 4K Blu-ray. But man, I just found myself, because I haven't watched it in, I don't know, a year or 9 months or something. I just got sucked right back in. So I just ended up watching the first 3 episodes, and I'm like, well, I want to watch it all over again, especially now because it's on 4K and it's, you know, sounds better and it looks better. And so, yeah, I'm excited to dive into that tomorrow morning. And I may even just blow through all the rest of the episodes tomorrow, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, get a review out maybe on Friday. We'll see. Maybe. But one of the big things is that, you know, in my small town, you know, I called Target yesterday and they're like, nah, we're not going to carry that in store, but you can order it. You can pre-order it online right now. It's like, okay, cool, thanks. So I didn't want to wait for that because I wanted it in hand today. And Walmart is one of the only other big box stores that still carries 4K Blu-rays in store. But in my town...
A store? What's that? A store? Know, right? What is that?
What is this brick and mortar establishment you speak of? The one in my town and the one in the very close adjacent town did not have it in stock, but the Walmart 30 miles away did. So I drove all the way to that one this morning just so I could have it in hand and start watching it today.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is dedication right there.
Yeah, because I didn't have a lot to do today, so I figured might as well. Because I also had to take my in-laws to the airport. So I knew my day was kind of going to be weird anyway. So
yeah. So he wants to know, buy it, don't wait for the review, LOL.
I mean, my short review is yeah.
Yes to the first part of the question or the second part? Just go buy it? Is that what you're saying?
To go buy it, yes.
Okay. Just for clarification.
I mean, it's just that everybody gives a performance in it like it's not a Star Wars title.
Yeah.
It's just they signed up for this gritty, slow moving, but still tension filled drama that just happens to be in the Star Wars universe. So because it deals with all the little minutia that you just don't really think about or have seen in a prior Star Wars series or movie. Like one of the dudes is really trying to work up the corporate ladder, so to speak. And he's trying to convince his superior officer to really go after this guy, Cassian Andor, who murdered these two people, who murdered two officers, really. And his superior was like, you know what? Let's say this. Let's just make up this story. They did yada, yada, yada. Fill out the paperwork and we'll call it a day. It's that's honestly what happens all the time. With any police department or law enforcement, they're going to have issues like that where it's ugh, that's just going to be a bunch of legwork. I don't know if we have enough resources to try and find this guy. Let's just let him go. So just that kind of little minutia, it's great because it's real. Even though it takes place in a fictitious universe, it still brings it down to reality somehow. So they did a fantastic job. It's just one of my favorite shows.
Nice. And you know what? You just got $10 for gas. So we got a super chat. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm gonna make sure that goes right to Elon. And yeah, so can't wait for the review. Awesome. Thank you. Is it Bro? Brocinco.
That's what I'm thinking.
Say it wrong.
It's Bro 5.
Yeah. So thank you so much for the super chat. That's actually a good segue. But I do want to real quick mention that I have been following Diego Luna since he was in that dancing movie. No, I'm kidding. He was in a great Western called Open Range with Robert Duvall and Kevin Costner. One of the best. I can't remember when the movie came out. One of the best shootout demo scenes I've ever used at the end. I would so much love to see that on 4K with an Atmos mix. Yeah. Oh man, dang it! The freaking thumb. I could see my thumb there too. Oh gosh, it strikes again. Such a great demo scene. I know it's on Blu-ray, but I'd love to see a remaster of that. Yeah, it's a great movie.
I haven't seen that one because when you said Open Range, my mind immediately went to his other terrible movie called The Postman. But that's
Costner. Yeah, no, that's not that. Yeah, Open Range. I think Robert Duvall is more the prominent character in that.
Yeah.
But anywho, speaking of super chats and everything, they are here. They are activated on either of our channels. Not required whatsoever, but highly appreciated. We're going to try to answer all your questions, regardless if there's a super chat or not. And but we do appreciate you. It's just an easy way to show support for us. And before we really dive in here, topical question as usual. If you've been here before, just put a TQ in front of that, and then ask the question, or even if it's an opinion, go ahead and post away. We'll try to highlight those as we can. And then general questions as usual. Put a GQ in front and ask away. If there's some downtime, we can answer those there's a lull for whatever reason. Sometimes we have brain farts, or at the end, we try to get through all of them. And then if you're listening to this in podcast form, I apologize. You cannot post and ask questions. However, if you are watching on a place where you can leave comments, feel free to post questions there, and we may try to get to those when we can next week. So that might be, I don't know what platforms have comments where you could leave things.
I guess if they were listening to the podcast and they had a question, they could just go to the live stream later and just post a comment.
That's true.
If they really wanted to.
Yep. You post a comment there, and we will try to get to it. And yeah, before we get started, basically the home theater revamp videos are done. They're out. Super excited about that. I've had some comments, all positive. Some people asked about the PC. I'm actually currently looking at Silverstone PC cases that will go into the entertainment stand, because the more I look at it, the more I'm like, yeah, this doesn't really, like, I want to get it in there. Like, I want to get it in the stand. And they make some cool cases that have great airflow. I just have to figure out what I'm going to do for CPU cooling, because my current config won't fit in there. My water cooler
is a slimmer case then?
Yeah, it's slimmer, but it's meant to be horizontally mounted as well. Like, so I already measured and everything, and it fits. That's super exciting. I'll probably I might reach out to Silverstone and see if they want to send me a case just to do a build in. And do a video on that. And then also a couple of exciting announcements here. I did finally get my multi-EQ, whatever. I got the license and the calibrated microphone from Odyssey. So I've been playing around with that for the past week or so. I got the license prior to getting the microphone, so I've just kind of playing around with importing target curves. And then also, just tonight, I talked to Joe from Joe and Tell, and he gave me a license for his Magic Beans stuff. So I will be checking that out in the coming weeks. And
did he at first hook you up on his Discord or whatever?
Yeah. So I haven't set up anything yet. We talked for an hour and a half earlier today. Nice. So yeah, going to be covering some of that, hopefully. He wants me to really dive in and use it first before. Understandable. Like I want to kind of like understand what's going on. He was super awesome about that. I'm excited to check that out. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been working on. And then we watched a movie last night called Leave the World Behind on Netflix. Solid 3 out of 10. It was annoying, frustrating, tedious. Tried too hard to be like an M. Night Shyamalan type of movie about the apocalypse and all this stuff. And I mean, if you have Netflix already, it's worth a watch one time. It has some cool Atmos moments, but overall, Also, Julia Roberts is in it, and her character is just annoying. I love Ethan Hawke though. Ethan Hawke's one of my favorite actors.
Yeah.
And
isn't that where the deer they're approaching them and they're like, what do they do?
Yeah. Two of my favorite actors are in this film, which are Ethan Hawke and Mahershala Ali.
Oh yeah.
So just love those two guys. Kevin Bacon's also in it. He's in the I'm not spoiling anything. He's in the title credits, but yeah.
Do you know who produced that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
I do.
He's on a mission.
That's it. They both are.
Yeah.
They both
that.
I like how we're not saying who it is.
Climate change is real.
Well, we're not saying who it is. It's the Obamas. It's the Obamas, Barack and Michelle. Yeah. The last name's Obama, right? Okay. Anyway, I found it to be just. Even my wife, I was like, "What would you give it?" She's like, "A 4."
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah." But anyway,
I was curious about that, but I hadn't seen it yet.
It had an annoying sound mix too, by the way. Just some weird, super loud.
Just like certain moments, just kind of.
Just I think it was intentional, but it was just
maybe the Obamas got pointers from Christopher Nolan.
No, because it was actually an Atmos, so I don't think so.
True.
But anyway, so we're going to dive in here. So we're talking about AI today, in home theater specifically. That includes anything like smart devices, like your Echo Dots, your Google Home stuff. We're going to try our hardest not to say the actual names. So if you're listening to this later on a speaker or through your system and you have one of these devices, it will not trigger. What's funny is when I was editing, I think the first revamp, I said, hey, I have an iPhone, so you can fill in the blank here. I actually kept triggering it during that part when I was editing it on my phone. And so finally, if you wondered why I dipped it down, it wasn't just because I didn't want it to trigger anything for you guys. It was driving me insane.
Yeah.
So I turned that off. But so we're gonna be talking about that. Home automation, that's part of it. But there's also like parts of it for like video and audio that I think kind of going forward as things progress, it could be really really awesome. So Elon, I don't know if you want to kick things off. I do want to mention real quick that during our discussion yesterday, while we were talking about this, Elon's smart device picked up his voice randomly. We weren't even talking. We didn't even say anything, and it was just like, "I'm sorry, I didn't get that."
Yeah.
Anybody who has Echo Dots or anything around knows they're always listening. Which I found that super amusing, and I wish we were recording our conversation.
I know, right?
That was so funny. Holy crap!
Icing on the cake.
Yeah. So, I don't know where you want to kind of start here.
Well, I mean, the original idea that we weren't sure if it was going to be big enough to last a whole broadcast or not, but the original idea that I was thinking was just smart products. Yeah, like you were saying, the Dot, the Nest, the what have you, HomePod Mini, all that kind of stuff. And this actually, we do want to ask you who are participating in this live stream right now, like, do you even use that stuff? Who out there actually uses and utilizes voice commands to run their stuff, turn on the TV, turn down lights, turn on lights, or because what kind of sparked this idea was the fact that my Samsung Frame TV, they must have a partnership with Amazon or something, because every time I increase the volume on the TV, or just volume up or down, whatever.
Yeah.
Every time I do that, this little pop-up comes up on the very bottom of the screen that says, hey, next time you should ask, she who must not be named, that starts with an A.
It's an it. Okay. It's an it. It's not a person.
Yeah.
Wow. He has 15 Google Homes.
Oh.
I imagine you sit in a circle and have them all around you and you worship. I'm kidding. The imaging, people, the imaging. Anyway, continue, Elon. I'm sorry.
Instead of bro cinco, you should be how do you say 15 in Spanish? Catorce is 14, so what's 15?
Not sure.
Bro 15. Anyway, so like just the fact that it tells me, hey, hold down, because if I were to do that, if I were to do what my TV suggested, it would take so much longer, because I just pick up the remote, click it 3 times, and it goes up 3 variables, whatever. But if I were to pick up the remote, hold down the microphone, wait for it to respond, which takes 1 to 2 seconds and makes a little chime, then say, hey, a word, increase the volume by 3. That alone
takes forever.
3-4 times as long as if I were to just increase the volume.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I would understand it for commands that are maybe hidden in a menu somewhere where you have to go 3 or 4 menus deep. For instance, on my LG OLED, I use the the screen deactivator, or the basically it doesn't turn the TV off, it just turns the screen off. So if I know if I'm going to be away for like 10 minutes, I don't want to have something on the screen if I know there's not a screensaver.
Yeah.
So basically, I'll just say, hey, turn off the screen, and it will do that. Now, yeah, you can set up like a quick command and everything, but I haven't. Honestly, it's just so quick to like pick it up and just do that. I don't think about it. The only time it didn't work was when I disconnected the set from the internet, because I got tired of seeing the like. Sorry, I'm getting texts and I forgot to put my laptop in airplane mode. So let me do that real quick. Sorry, guys. Focus. There we go. Do not disturb. Not airplane mode. This is do not disturb now. We're in 2024. Yeah. So, yeah, basically, it will be like, that's super easy. But then I basically we have Echo Dots. We have like 3 in the house, I think.
Yeah.
We use it basically for turning off lights and stuff like that. Predominantly the theater room lights, because I could just say, hey, I can make little routines where it's like I like the red and blue, or maybe if I'm just watching a movie, I can go, okay, I want the backlight, the LED strips behind the TV to be like 1%. I want it as dim as possible. Typically for movies, though, I turn it off. But for games, I kind of have it on as low as possible on like 6,500 degrees Kelvin. And that works well, except when it doesn't. Because
Sure.
as you know, with these Amazon services and everything, sometimes things just stop working.
No.
Yeah. And I'll occasionally get that thing where if people that maybe aren't aware, if you have like Echo devices, like, I'm not going to say the name, but like Echo Dots, and they have multiple tiers,
Yeah.
you have to download the Amazon app, not the shopping app, but like specifically for this device. And then you could program it to do all these routines, but they have skills within the app. So like when you buy a device, I mean, I think it's similar. It's similar to, many other devices where you have to go in and activate a certain thing to be able to use it. So like, okay, you got these lights from Govee. You actually have to go into the Amazon app and download the Govee skill, which will activate it. But you also need the Govee app on your phone. And it's this whole like, we just need a unified system that like brings it kind of all together. But then sometimes I'll just say it. I'm like, hey, turn off the TV lights. Nope, nothing. I'll go into the app and it's like, oh, this has been disconnected. I'm like, but why? I never changed anything whatsoever. So there's a lot of like inconsistency with a lot of these devices where I can go right in the app and turn it off, or I could, try to say a voice command. It just sometimes won't work. Nothing's changed, and then normally I'll wait a couple days and it's back to normal, or I might reboot a device, or it's crazy. So like the home automation stuff is great when it works. It's when it doesn't that I would say I'd pull my hair out, but not really going to happen.
Why are you here? What am I using you for?
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, you guys in, watching probably have had this happen where you'll say something that you've said a million times, right? Hey, turn off the blah, blah, blah. Hey, movie time. That's one of my routines. It's like, hey, movie time, and it's like, it'll turn off all the lights, and it'll be like, sorry, I don't know that. Bitch, you know you do. You've done this a million times before.
Yeah.
Or they'll just pick up random conversations. Like,
right.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
It's like, you weren't part of this conversation. Just for those curious, the Spanish word for 15 is quince. So just so you know. Like quinceañera. So I should have known that.
Right? I want to bring up this smart things for the win. So that's a Samsung thing. And yes, I love it. We have smart washer and dryer. It is so great getting an alert on my phone because our washer and dryer in the garage where we can't hear it.
Yeah.
So it's just getting an alert on my phone, letting me know that, hey, it's done. Or like I can look at any time and say, oh, how long do I have left on the washer or dryer? And it's great. We're in the process. We actually have a like a Samsung smart refrigerator too, so we can check things on there, and we can actually add stock to it if we want. Like where we're like, oh, we have this, and it'll let us know when we're like running low, or it does require way too much effort though to like put everything in and then put the expiration date in there. And it's like, hey, you should throw this out. It's like, we don't do any of that. But yeah, we love the smart stuff, like having a dishwasher and stove. That's kind of the next upgrades that we're hoping to make there because we need new stuff there. But those are kind of like the AI smart things, no pun intended, that I really like.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a convenience, quality of life thing.
True. Yeah. That's so true because it's definitely brought us into the 21st century, and like it's stuff that you saw 30, 40 years ago in movies is becoming a reality, and that's pretty cool. I like that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure our washer and dryer are smart, but we haven't set that up, so we probably should. Because that would be nice to know. Like, I mean, it's just like in the laundry room that's just off of the, it's not in the garage, but it's just right as you walk in from the garage.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I should probably do that.
We have a smart garage door opener. So like it's connected through like your phone. So you could just you could open the app and hit the button and it will open and close. Right. And it's great. Except when we were in the process of moving in, we got our internet installed, like connected it and everything. And I was on the way home about 30 minutes away, and I got a notification that the garage door opened.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So I had to drive all the way back. And then we installed a garage camera, like inside the garage, so we can always see like, oh, is it open? Is it closed? Like we don't have to get up. And so things like that, video doorbells and I mean they're becoming commonplace now for things like that. That's kind of out of the scope of like home theater, even though like Samsung is you have your audio systems that you can get, your displays obviously that are all smart things connected, but there is kind of something, and again, people in the audience know this. Once you kind of buy into a certain ecosystem, you really need to stay within that ecosystem. It's kind of like buying DeWalt batteries or buying DeWalt power tools, like cordless power tools. You get the batteries, and now you pretty much should probably stick with DeWalt if you're going to buy a ton of power tools down the road or over time. It's the same as like, okay, I'm already here, might as well, like. Why am I going to buy? I'm going to have like Ryobi and then Milwaukee and then all this other stuff. You kind of want one centralized battery that, so whenever we shop for stuff, I'm like, well, what do we already have? Let's just try to find one and it sucks when there's nothing available that what you're looking for. Like, we have a bunch of like, again, this is getting off topic. We have a bunch of Cobalt stuff, which is the Lowe's brand. So we have like basically like a like a lawn, like string trimmer and leaf blower and stuff like that, and all their like impacts. I have an impact and a drill, and I went to go buy an edger, and they don't have it in the battery size. They only have like a 40 volt. And I'm like, are you guys serious? Like now I have to spend. I mean, yes, it's one of the same family, and I think you could use the same battery charger, but it's still like you can't make a 24 volt.
Yeah.
Anyway. Rant over there. Sorry. It's just like kind of a pain in the ass when you're going through that stuff. But yeah, I mean, we talked yesterday, Elon, about Control 4, which is kind of the big name.
Does anybody in the comments, has anybody used Control 4 or knows somebody who has Control 4 and are envious of Control 4 or just don't really see the value in Control 4? Because that seems to be like the big one. I don't know.
Mr. 60 miles for a disc. That's awesome.
Hey, it's 3 discs.
Hey, and he does not have Control 4, but Connect 4. Yeah. We'll play a game of Guess Who later. But yeah, I mean, we talked yesterday about it. I have a couple friends actually. I think Jeremy maybe has Control 4. I can't remember. I haven't talked to him in a bit. Tech Enthusiasm, for those that are familiar with his channel, I believe has Control 4, but I'm not 100% certain. Don't quote me on that. But my friend swears by Control 4, loves it to death. He made the funny recommendation of me or to me to like get into the Control 4 system. And I was like, dude, like the entryway into that system is like, over a third of what my whole home theater costs. So I don't think that, and then like somebody mentions Gary Pye here. I believe you have to basically have someone else program your devices for you unless you become trained yourself in it, which also costs money and time. Which obviously you can transfer over to, like, if you have other people, then maybe you can like contract out to help that. I don't understand how it works. It seems to be a system kind of devoted to people that want this kind of big. To me, it doesn't make sense to have like a single room with Control 4. It's literally a whole house system. If you're going to spend that kind of money, it needs to control everything in the house. And so then it kind of makes more sense from like a home automation standpoint, if you have the money. And that's the thing where I think most people just, I mean, unless you have a really advanced home automation system, and this is just my opinion, there's really no reason for Control 4. Unless it's, like I said, very, very advanced. If you're like, me and you have like a smart TV, smart system, washer, dryer, smart lights, you can get an Echo Dot, you can get a Google Home. It's not going to be as seamless and probably as reliable as Control 4, but it's not going to cost you a crap ton of money either. So that's something that I can't answer for anyone. I don't have their wallet or their money. And if I did have their wallet, then I'd probably go to jail because I wouldn't just, but like, it's just crazy. Like, it's kind of like, I think, Siphonic says that it's like a kind of a gated community type of thing. Like you need, like, you can't come into our country club unless you, kind of, provide the dough. Right. So
is Control 4 all wireless nowadays, or are there like wired versions or packages?
I mean, honestly, you're talking to like, I have no clue. I know that like you have to wire things to the central hub, I think, but like all the devices kind of connect to each other. It's not something that like, I love this comment. It's true. Light switches are not hard to work. Flip up and light comes on. Exactly. It's like when you're talking about LED strips on a TV or something, that's different, obviously. We don't have smart lights in our house. Like, we literally walk into a room and you just flip it on. Like, we have some smart lights, don't get me wrong, but like majority of our lights are just switches. Like, we're old fashioned that way.
Yeah. I mean, as far as lights are concerned, we don't have any like, RGB lights or anything throughout the house, but we do have some motion lights. Like when we walk into our master bathroom, it just automatically turns on. And then when we leave and no motion occurs, it automatically turns off after like 30 seconds or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's actually great. I really enjoy that. Just not having to worry about, I could just walk into the room. Because it kind of reminds me of, you ever see the movie Her with Joaquin
Yeah.
Phoenix.
Yeah.
And Scarlett Johansson is the AI in the movie.
Her voice. Yeah. He falls in love with her, and
yeah,
I'm
because I
dating an
remember.
AI.
Right.
Who wouldn't? I guess. I don't know.
I mean, honestly, that's probably not in the too far distant future. Um, but I remember one thing that stood out to me, which seems kind of weird that it stood out, but it's when he was entering his house, and every room that he walked into, lights would turn on when he was in the room and then automatically turn off when he was out of that room. So the light trail just kind of followed him wherever he went,
Yeah.
just automatically. And I thought that was really cool. I mean, it's definitely not something that's probably too distant in the future. And it seems like it would save a lot on energy costs. But I mean, at the same time, though, nowadays it seems like all lights are LEDs. So
God. Oh, sorry. Like, I just want to say, like, this is probably the best conversation we've ever had. Just for this comment right here, the lights go up. There is nothing worse than being in a public restroom. This is taking a dark turn, but I'm going with it. I don't care. You go in the restroom. It's got the automated lights, and you're in there for a little bit because sometimes you're walking around Target with a coffee. Anyway,
right.
the lights go off, and you're like suddenly in this like dark room.
Right.
You're like, oh, I'm scared. Yeah, I don't know. It just really made me laugh. So thank you, Gary, for that. That was oh my gosh.
That's happened. That's happened a few times to me when I used to have a job at like a big office building where there's like a bunch of cubicles and stuff. Yeah, that happened to me a few times. So luckily I had my phone on me, so I just used the flashlight, but still, yeah. It happens.
It happens. Thankfully, we all most of us have phones with flashlights and stuff, so it's not a big deal. But, but yeah. So for the kind of general home use, I think Control 4 is out of the realm of it just doesn't make sense for most people. Now, if you're building a house from scratch, kind of like my friend did, home automation is a big thing. Again, though, if it really just depends what your budget is and if that's important to you. Again, it's kind of like with home theater. It's like, what's important to you? Where do you want to put all your money? Mm-hmm. Or what do you where would it benefit you the most? So I think for me, I don't know that I see Control 4 in my future at all. I mean, I'm not going to say never.
Yeah.
But kind of the current trajectory, I don't know. I don't know where I kind of see my theater in 10, 15 years. I just don't being in this kind of space here with product reviews. And it's hard to say for guys like Elon and myself, because it's our stuff is constantly changing. It's always being changed out. Yeah. So I would love to get to a point with all of this to kind of you've been doing, where you have a separate kind of test room setup, and then another dedicated room that's I don't touch that stuff. That's my permanent thing. And then I have another area where I review gear, I test gear. That would be the ultimate goal, where I can record tutorials and stuff. That way there's no tweaking that needs to happen in my main theater.
Exactly.
Guys, everything's good there. I don't have to ever change it again if I don't want to. But all the fun tweaking and stuff happens that you guys see happens in the other room, but not there. So that's kind of far away, but I think go ahead.
I mean, even then it just seems like it just seems like a lot of smart apps nowadays, or smartphone integration is eliminating the need for something like Control 4. Because it seems like you can't survive in this current technological climate without having an app that goes along with your product.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's 100% true. Even LG was trying to get me to download their app when I got the TV. I'm like, I don't want to use my phone to control the TV. I just want to give me the magic remote. like, which by the way is like one of the best remotes in my opinion. I really love the Magic Remote.
Yeah.
But I'm also one of those weird people, and maybe sound off in the comments if you're one of these weird people too. I don't want like a Harmony remote. I don't really like, for me, it just kind of doesn't, like, I've had them before, and to me it just doesn't do what I want it to do. And it would take me way too long to get it to program. Again, because we switch stuff out now,
Yeah.
especially, it's one
Yeah.
thing if some company's like, hey, you know, would you want to review this? We'll, you know, send it to you for free or whatever.
Mhm.
That's a different thing, but like a remote, like I think Michael did a sofa baton review, which looks cool, but like,
That's right. I remember that.
yeah, I mean, I mean, that, okay, so like I'm maybe in the minority here because I predominantly control everything. Like I don't think my wife has ever went into the theater room and turned things on.
Yeah.
I don't think she feels comfortable with that. She did.
Right.
She could definitely figure it out, but I think
Sure.
having like a smart remote, I mean, there is something to that. Like if you have multiple people that you're sharing everything with, then yeah, a smart remote is great for them. But then, like if I'm doing any type of like audio stuff, that was the main thing, is like if I'm tweaking a lot of stuff, I'm grabbing the receiver remote. I'm not using the sofa baton or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a personal preference for me. Excuse me. Same with the TV remote. If I'm going in trying to get to a setting, I don't want to fumble around with another remote when I know exactly where everything is on the LG remote. But
Yeah.
again, if you're someone who has other people in your house that use your home theater and stuff, makes total sense to have like a universal like Harmony or I mean, Harmony's dead now, but like Sofa Baton or like one of these companies that have a similar product.
Right.
Yeah. But I don't use any of my devices to control my home theater.
Me neither.
Just the lights. I don't have it turning anything on other than this, like turning off the screen, but that's directly through the LG remote because it has like the mic in it.
Right. I don't know if you have heard of this before.
Is it the Home Assistant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the Home Assistant, this atomic pass-through says Home Assistant is greater than Control 4. I've never heard of Home Assistant. Have you?
I have. I've never really delved into it deeply. I feel like the use case for me probably wouldn't be anything I'm interested in currently.
Yeah.
But that's just me again.
Well, it looks like it has Amazon support and also Google support. So, yeah, interesting.
That does remind me, we do have a smart thermostat. I forgot about that. I mean, I don't forget about it. I use it all the time, but like, like I forgot. I was like, oh yeah, like we normally, when we go to like our in-laws, which are about an hour and a half away, we'll set, being in Florida, we'll set the temperature higher and while we're gone, and then like right when we leave, I'll just go ahead and turn it back down to like where we normally keep it, and that way when we get home, it's where it normally is. But it, like if you're working and stuff, it's great because like you can, just right from your phone, I could see, okay, yeah, cool. We have different sensors in the house, so like I can prioritize, like when we're in the theater room, I could say, hey, keep the theater room at 76 degrees.
Right.
Even though we don't have a what the heck do you call it? Dampers, like on our ductwork. So like it's not closing dampers to just route cold air to that room. It's kind of like everywhere. That's the biggest downside. If you do have like dampers, it would probably be much better.
Yeah.
But honestly, I probably need to get like some type of mini split or something for the theater room. That would be great to kind of keep it consistent.
Yeah, since you've got that big window.
Yeah, it can get it is 78 degrees in there sometimes without anything on, like during the day, just because of the heat. transferred. But yeah, I think, Home Assistant does sound great. I think, this kind of goes back to that thing where it is free and open source and everything, but I think it also probably comes with some type of learning curve in terms of like programming all your stuff. So there is that to consider. Some people are going to want to do that. They're going to be fine with it. Other people do not. No offense to anyone ever like listening or whatever. Some people just may not have the technical acuity to do it. Yeah. And that's okay. Like not everybody is computer savvy, tech savvy. But they still want to benefit from it. So, but even something like Home Assistant, you could probably hire someone to set it up for you for like pennies on the dollar as to what it would cost to like have someone set up Control 4 for you.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider as well. If you don't feel comfortable enough doing that, then yeah, you could maybe pay someone to do it. But yeah, I think like kind of pivoting over a little bit out of the home automation stuff and really kind of talking about home theater and maybe some of the kind of what I consider benefits to AI kind of getting injected into home theater. Right? Yes. We're seeing it now on people that have NVIDIA graphics cards and things like that. I mean, it's kind of in its infancy still. Like I said yesterday, Elon and I were talking, and I was like, NVIDIA has DLSS, which is a deep learning super sampling technique. It's basically rendering the game at a lower resolution and then upscaling it to whatever your output resolution is. And in some instances, in many instances, it can look better than, like, say, native 4K. Like just better overall image clarity. Doesn't come with a lot of the drawbacks of, native rendering using, traditional anti-aliasing techniques in video games like temporal anti-aliasing, which can cause like the image to be more blurry. But it didn't start out great. DLSS, it came out quite a few years ago. The first iteration it kind of had the right like kind of trajectory, but like the image quality just wasn't there. But now we're at a point where like if a game has it, I'm typically using it all the time. I don't ever not use it. I think and basically I mentioned that because NVIDIA also has their upscaler now on their 40 series, I believe. Because I have I have a 4070 Super. So like basically if I'm watching a YouTube video at 1080p, it will use its AI cores on the graphics card to upscale that to 4K or whatever my output resolution is. And will also take standard dynamic range and turn it into HDR. And it works surprisingly well.
Wow.
I'll watch my videos back on YouTube in HDR just to see what they look like. And it does a damn good job of kind of making it look like I shot it in HDR, even though I didn't. Like, there was a couple of videos where I had like a light on in the background and you could see the light, and that light was like bright. Like it was like the peak highlight on that light looked like I was standing there in real life. It was great. So, I mean, we have the tools are now being developed, and I think Atomic Pastor even mentioned it, that hopefully if they ever make a new NVIDIA Shield, they apply all the new AI tech. I would love to see that. They really need to work on the software side too, because the software on the NVIDIA Shield is kind of garbage, and I think that's the majority of the issues I have with the Shield are due to their clunky software, and it's not really NVIDIA, it's more Google.
Right.
So like, and at this point, like the Shield is, I think the last iteration of the Shield was 2019. So we're going on 5 years, or maybe it's 2021. Regardless,
many years.
3 to 5 years old in tech is ancient. So I would love to see that. I think we'll start seeing it more and more common in displays and stuff as the technology progresses and chips become smaller, or they may even be able to develop a software solution for some of this stuff. Because right now on like NVIDIA stuff, it's all done on what they call tensor cores, which is where like all their AI processing and stuff happens. And it's like really great. I mean, they're even doing things like frame generation. So think of like what your TV does when you do like motion interpolation, but for games, but on like a much higher level where there's far less ghosting. There's not as much like just artifacting and things like that you get with that. Not that I would recommend using that for movies, but for games, it kind of makes sense if you're trying to hit like a higher frame rate from like, say you're already at like 80 and you want to hit 120 or try to get there. It's great for that, but you don't really want to, the tech's not really there yet to take like lower frame rate content and boost it up to like 60 or above. Like it's not really designed for that. Yeah. The input latency alone would be pretty bad on that, but like there's just not enough data for it to like basically make those fake frames in between. With
all the various home theater tours that you've done, did you ever see anyone use a Mad VR?
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think the Star Wars theater in Louisiana was using a Mad VR. The last place I went
that's just AI upscaling or something? What is it?
It's a bunch of stuff. It's a glorified PC with custom built software. I mean, I met the people that like I've met the owner of Mad VR, the president or whatever, Rick. That's how well I know him. But no, I mean, it is like upscaling. I think it does use AI to an extent. It's like a competitor to Illumigen. Both try to achieve the same thing. They both have like, a bunch of features that I probably never use. Like nonlinear stretch, which is like basically filling your screen, getting rid of like black bars, which I'm just like, I don't really care about that too much.
Like without it gets rid of the black bars without it looking stretched?
It looks stretched. I don't care what anybody says. I've seen it in action, and like I remember friends were like, you can't even tell, and he showed me like his desktop on Windows, and it was obviously like stretched on the sides.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe he didn't have it set up correctly. I don't know. I can't say for certain. But when he showed me, I was like, dude, like your document, like he had like a text file on his desktop. It was like stretched out like horizontally. I was like, right. It is stretched like this. And then he was playing a game with like the reticle was like a circle, and the circle was an oval. I was like, are you telling me you cannot see that it's an oval, dude? Like that is supposed to be a circle.
Honestly, I think it's because you and I have a filmmaking background.
It bothers me to no end, man.
I notice it the instant I see anything that's stretched, I'm like, oh, that's stretched. That looks off.
Yeah. So. I'm a fan of just give me the original aspect ratio. I'll have black bars on the side. I'll have black bars on the top and bottom. I don't care if I have a massive screen. There's like that. Let's get into a different topic here, but like there's that theory of like I paid for this big screen, I want to use all of it, and I'm like I paid for this big screen, and I want the films in the original aspect ratio that they were intended to be seen in, or whatever's on the disc. And I know that I think Mad VR, I could be wrong, don't quote me on this, did recently come out with their latest revision, which by the way, Mad VRs are like stupidly expensive. Let's be honest.
Yeah, dude.
They're like 12 or 13 grand. I don't care. I really don't I really don't care if me saying that gets me on the blacklist of me never receiving one for review, because the likelihood of me wanting to review one is, again, 13 grand is just ridiculous, guys. Come on. Like, it's a boutique item though. I get it to some extent. But I don't think you definitely don't need one for like if you have a display like an OLED or something, they're mainly meant for like massive projector screens.
I mean, isn't that the reason to get a really large display, is so that, if something takes up the entire 16:9 aspect ratio, that's great. But if it's 235:1 and you've got black bars, it's still going to look big because your display is big.
Yeah. I mean, it's that same principle of people getting really nice speakers and like not wanting to take them out of full range, even though they're robbing themselves of bass performance because they're dealing with cancellation from subwoofers and like their speakers producing those same tones. Your speakers may be able to do it, but unless you calibrate it properly and set it up, which is not as easy as like, I ran Odyssey and it's great. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. You know, just because you have these large woofers doesn't mean that you need to feed them that information all the time. Just like your screen doesn't need to be filled all the time, in my opinion, as kind of a purist, I guess. But again, what you do with your stuff is your prerogative. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, for me, it's just like, I want it. Just give me, like, I don't want to have to fuss with like nonlinear stretch or anything. Like, he plays games that way, and I'm like, how do you, like, like my brain would just be like, oh, he's like, you get used to it. I was like, no, I wouldn't allow myself. I feel like I'm like going down a dark path right now.
People are all calling you out that you don't want
Ike's here. What's up, Ike? Yeah, I'm never getting to Mad VR. How many brands and people can I piss off tonight?
Yes. Yeah, a lot of reviewers in home theater are going to be upset with you now wanting Mad VR.
I mean, yeah. They Gary does mention they do tone mapping. I don't know if you can highlight that comment or before I do. We'll do it at the same time and just like hide and show it. Here we go. Yeah, they do tone mapping for the projector, which for projectors, they really do need it, because projectors, especially for HDR, it's mainly for HDR content. Projectors with SDR content are pretty like spot on, especially after calibration. But like for HDR, projectors just cannot get to those like peak highlights that are on most is in most HDR content, basically. Right. So they need a little help there. But there are projectors that have built-in tone mapping that are very good, from my understanding. I can't remember the brands off the top of my head. So again, is it a necessity? Again, I can't answer that. Like for me, I would have to see it really to be like, this is worth 13 grand. It's hard for me to wrap my head around that for a video processor to be 13,000.
So let me get this straight, or see if I have it straight in my mind. Mm-hmm. You've got your AVR controlling everything, and then you go out, your main HDMI output goes to the Mad VR. Mad VR does its thing, and then that goes out to a projector, which then increases its brightness capabilities. Is it like,
no, so it's not like your projector has like a finite amount of brightness.
It's got limitations,
right? So what the Mad VR will do, or for any display, it could be, you could just basically tell the Mad VR, my projector can only do 350 nits or 400 nits for HDR. It will tone map everything from like that's above that to like the 400 nits, but it will do so. Like projectors typically have it built in, so they're gonna like kind of, they're gonna be, it's gonna be more like a curve that's like, it's not, you're not gonna like end up losing detail, but like the shadows may suffer, the midtones may suffer because of this tone mapping that the projector's doing. Whereas like a Mad VR allows you more control with that. The downside, though, is, and I've seen it in a lot of home theaters that I've seen. I mean, this is with Lumagen Mad. It's not only Mad VR. If you imagine the handshake issues that may come up because of that, you're going from like a source to the Mad VR to potentially something else like a Trinov to something else to like the projector. So there's like 4 things that it has to pass through. And I've literally seen in these like big theaters that have, million, like, five, six, $700,000 worth of equipment. They start the movie, you hear the audio, but the picture shows up like 15 to 20 seconds later.
Whoa.
And I'm like, I can
in
understand
sync,
it.
Right?
It's in sync.
Okay.
But it just takes so long because, again, you have to think Mad VR has to fill that frame buffer too.
Right.
So it's not going to be instant. It's looking ahead. It's doing all this. It's kind of doing all this stuff. So it's not a perfect solution, but it's something that people deal with for having, that advanced processing and stuff like that comes with it. But yeah, I remember seeing that. I was like, they're sitting here for like, I'm like looking around, like, anybody else just like hearing stuff and not seeing anything? Like, or am I just like, am I going blind? I felt like Abed in that episode of Community where he's like, they were all like mouthing stuff around him. He's like, wait, what's going on? Why can't I hear you guys? It's like, it's just, I was like, am I not seeing what you guys are seeing? I think like, yeah, I mean, I've seen him in action too. And it just, again, it's out of like, my brain can't comprehend for someone like in my current theater where like, it's like maybe max, 15 to 20 grand, maybe. Just putting a $13,000 processor in there is like, yeah, I don't know. It's it doesn't financially, it doesn't like that benefits are not worth it for that. There are many other areas that I could spend money on that would get me far greater benefit than that. And also it's kind of like, it's a piece of technology that will probably be outdated in 2 years and they'll come out with something else. And then, they might have an upgrade program or whatever. And again, this isn't like just Mad VR or Lumagen. It's like that with everything, right? Like there's always going to be something new right around the corner. It's like, you just have to be content with knowing that you're getting this now and you'd be okay with, are you going to be okay in 2 years when there's like something way better? As a PC gamer, and if we have any PC gamers in the chat, every year there's a new graphics card, there's a new CPU, or there's a new socket type, there's a new that it's like, this has 30% more performance, but it's going to cost 70% more than, it's like there's all these like factors that play into it, and it's like you're never going to be on the cutting edge. You're going to spend $2,000 on a GPU. Then yeah, it's a 4090. It's going to be good until the 5090 comes out, and then everybody's going to be like, you got a 4090? Oh yeah, my 5090 blows you out of the water. It's like in reality the 4090 is going to be good for the next 5 years probably. It's going to do everything. It's going to do everything you throw at it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just looking at the comment. I was like, I believe Ryan is putting in the sub the size of a trampoline. That's like a 50-inch.
One of those.
I call it the Marty McFly of subs.
Right.
It just reminds me of him standing in front of the big woofer. Wow. There's a slight possibility of overload. I'll keep that in mind. Damn, I'm late for school. Cue Power of Love. Can you guys tell it's like my favorite movie?
You're wearing the shirt.
I know. Still waiting for the Eric Stoltz version, but we'll see it. That was the
Release it.
For those that have seen The Flash, as bad as it was, that was one of the running jokes in there that I thought was hilarious.
The most recent one that came out?
Yeah. Which, spoilers, I mean, if you haven't seen, it's been out for a while. It's got critically panned, but yeah. It was all about, they're like, what? Michael J. Fox? No, that's Eric Stoltz in Back to the Future. Like, it was an alternate, like, timeline.
Right.
And I think maybe 10% of the audience got it. Because we're all nerds. The nerds got it. But yeah, so that's like on the video side of stuff. Do you have anything to like add that you may want to?
Well, I mean, I I can see the appeal of, say you've got a dedicated home theater and all you got to do is walk into the theater and just noticing, just if you have sensors or some sort of, smart setup to where you just have to enter the room. And by entering, your motorized, acoustically transparent screen starts to roll down from the ceiling. And then the LED lights you have around, slowly start to get brighter and brighter so you can see where you're going. The AC kicks on, but it's super quiet. You don't even know it's there. Your chairs are ready for you, and as soon as you sit in them, then they go to your specified spot that you've customized. And then you just say, hey, blah, blah, blah. I want to watch Young Guns.
Young Guns of all movies. Okay. Biodome.
Right.
Let's just turn it on.
Just do the 90s playlist.
Yeah.
And then it just plays it. I see the appeal of just being able to do that and not worrying about, physically turning things on. But
yeah,
I don't know. I also kind of like it, me personally, just turning on the TV, turning on my preamp, sitting down, reclining it, taking the remote in my hand and then press and play on the DVD player. I don't know, probably just because I'm old school like that, but I just don't see it's not valuable enough to me, to what it gives me, to actually pay that much to do something like that.
It took me a moment to understand what PH playlist was, but then my brain just went right there. So I was just thinking of like what you could go in and be like, call up my, start Billy Madison or something, like, or what's some like really bad movies like from the 90s, like Barbed Wire or
Son-in-Law. Anything with Pauly Shore.
Hey man, you know what? Okay, I'm here to defend Pauly Shore in like 2 movies, Encino Man and Son-in-Law. Those are the only 2. And he wasn't even
Encino Man
character.
was great. Yeah.
Encino Man was great. I mean Carla Cugino and Son-in-Law. I mean, come on. But what was his name in that movie? Crawl. Yeah.
Yeah.
We should do a whole movie just talking about movies from the 90s that we love that people don't love. Like we could just mention like movies where like, yeah, this movie is awful, but there's something. It's like kind of like when you go back and watch movies that you remember watching,
and you thought they were cool.
Yeah, like literally Biodome was one of those movies when I was in high school. I was like, and even younger because it came out in the 90s. I was like, this is a great movie, and tried to force my wife to watch it with me, and we had to turn it off because it was so bad. To lose the pillow. Yeah. Wing Commander. Oh my God, cool as ice. Yes. Oh man, I don't know if Weird Science should be on that same list though. That's in a different league. That's a John Hughes
80s,
movie.
Isn't it? Yeah,
that's 80s and John Hughes. We don't touch John Hughes movies. I mean, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I remember seeing that as a kid. You remember that one? The whole rental car part. I was like, it's like, how many F-bombs are they gonna throw in there?
I know, dude. Well, speaking of,
I'll be right back. But you take the lead. Take the lead.
Speaking of the future of AI, or at least particularly in home theater, I mean, someone mentioned Jarvis. Yeah, Siphonics. You mentioned Jarvis, and that's honestly where I see. I think I may have mentioned this on maybe another live stream or somebody else's live stream. That's honestly where I see AI headed. Is some sort of assistant that will help me calibrate, like basically to a laser focused minute detail. Because it would be great if, like, instead of having to hire some professional to come in and calibrate my system, it would be great if I had either like an actual robot next to me or something, or just some sort of humanoid voice assistant, just going through all these specs, scanning the room, like you see in sci-fi movies with like a laser scanner, just scanning all the corners and crevices and nooks of all the room, and just crunching numbers for me and being like, all right, you need to set this speaker here. Let's put this subwoofer here. Although I need to run some tests first. So yeah, I can just see as if I were Iron Man or Tony Stark talking to Jarvis, just be like, all right, let's do this. Let's put this subwoofer here, run the calculations, and it does something, similar to REW. And then it says, all right, according to these calculations, you need to angle the subwoofer this many degrees. Or maybe even there's like, maybe it takes just like a snapshot of the subwoofer and then gives you like a laser outline in the floor saying you should position the subwoofer here. So then you just move it to go within this boundary, that this like laser boundary, be like, all right, then it should work properly there, because previously we had this little bit of a null here, but if we were to move it over here, that null would be eliminated.
Yeah.
Some kind of, that's honestly where I hope to see AI is integrated into the home theater part of it, because that's honestly the toughest part about home theaters.
Yeah.
Is the audio calibration. It takes the most time. You can tweak and dial to no end, and it just doesn't seem like it'll ever end because there's always something. So yeah, I could see that coupled with something like Dirac Art, where it utilizes the entire speaker system to eliminate certain frequencies that are troublesome, instead of having the need to put up acoustic treatment.
Yeah. I think, not to this kind of piggyback off like what you're talking about. I like how I just jump back and be like, hey, so I'm here.
Honestly, that was the end of my rant anyway.
No, I think, that would be great. Like Dirac Art and things like that are like a great kind of step forward. But I think, as you said, kind of as you stated, like instead of putting room correction up, at that point, it's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a bigger problem. It's trying to solve an unsolvable equation in a way. Like it will only get so good, or like the results will only be as good as there's like a ceiling as to like how good it can be without proper acoustics or acoustic treatments. And it's the same with like a lot of these room corrections. As cool as Multi-QX has been playing around with it, just talking to Joe today, I was like about to record this impressions video. I want to make sure that what I'm doing is not because of me. Like, am I screwing something up? And he's like, no, he basically echoed everything that I was saying. I was like, I'm having this issue and there's like some quirkiness here. And, yeah. So
with Multi-QX.
Yeah. Multi-QX. Like it's a great, it's basically like, and he described it perfectly. It's taking like, especially if you have like a receiver or pre-pro with multi-Q XT32.
Yeah.
It's basically taking your receiver and turning it into a mini DSP for each of your speakers.
Right.
So like it takes like Elon and I've spoken to you about it before. I was like, I would love to get separate amps and then put like a DSP in between the amps. No longer need to do that. with multi EQX. It's literally $200 and like you're in.
Yeah.
There's no way, and that's every channel, including your subs. Yeah, you kind of if you don't have four sub outs, you need something. You need like to calibrate them some other way. But that covers every single channel on the receiver with this $200. Like, there's no way. I think like that's not stated enough. It's like it's literally turning that into a mini DSP where like you would have to spend a massive amount more to get full DSP control on all of your stuff. Like,
I'm pretty sure it's literally 10% of the cost, because I think mini DSP has those 8-channel DSP outboard gear things.
Yeah.
And I think they're $1,000 a piece.
Yeah.
So you would need 2 of those.
Yeah. Or at least like one of those, and like maybe so you're spending a lot more money to get the same functionality. Granted, I mean, if you're at that point where you're considering a DSP, you probably already know how to use REW, or someone that does. At that point, it's like, well, why? Like, I just pay this person to do it, or I'll do it myself and then spend the $200. Again, I'm not like, they not pay me to say that, or they're not paying me anything. Honestly, they just gave me the license. Full disclosure, I didn't pay for the license or the calibration microphone that they sent along. But just from that alone, I would have no problem I would have no problem spending $200 of my own money on it.
Yeah.
Just being able to have that functionality without the need. Like, once I go separate amplification, the issue I was facing, right, as we've talked about, again, this is kind of getting a little off topic, so sorry guys, but I'll get a separate amp. Maybe I get a 7-channel amp, and I want to run the 4 overhead speakers off of the Denon. Well, if I had a DSP system, I wouldn't be able to do that with the overhead speakers. I could just EQ the speakers going to the amp. Does that make sense? Because like I'd be using the pre-outs from the receiver into the amp, or into the DSP that's going out to the amp. Whereas like now it's just straight pre-outs all the way to the amp, nothing in between, which also will reduce, anytime you add DSP, you do introduce a certain amount of latency.
Sure.
So, yeah, I think that I was actually surprised by that. And again, they're like, I've not been paid anything by them. I was just fortunate enough to like, I reached out to them and said, hey, I have some ideas for some videos, and they wanted to work with me, so they provided the license and microphone to me, and it's honestly awesome. So, but we're talking about like AI and stuff, and that's something that I think AI could really do well, as we're talking about audio. A lot of the EQ systems out there may do certain things, but like if AI is really good at one thing, it's like advanced like computations.
Yeah, for sure.
Like doing that really easily. Like, I mean, it's not AI, but it's an algorithm, or like a program. But multi-sub optimizer is one of those kind of things where, okay, I have 4 subs. Let's say I take a measurement at 4 different positions. I label the subs and I feed that into multi-sub optimizer, and it will look at all of those, and you can kind of tell it what to do. It's easier than it's been in the past, but it's still like not the easiest thing to use and get great results. I've not yet got amazing results with it, which is why I haven't like really covered it in the video, because I don't like want to just be like, hey, this is what I did, and it's like, but it doesn't sound great. Why am I going to talk about it? But no, you feed it that, you hit a button, and it literally is doing all of these different like calculations and variations on like sub level, and it's doing it so much faster than you could do it yourself. In terms of like the just amount of calculations and processing that it's doing. And so like there is room there for AI to step in and go, I got this. Like, like I'll handle everything. You know, like Joe and I were talking earlier about his magic beans. This is such a weird name, but he's like literally within 10 seconds, we do 60 measurements of a speaker. Within 10, you can't do 60 measurements in 10 seconds on REW. It's just not possible.
Right.
So like that alone, I mean, you know, you're getting like he's doing. Like I need to play around with magic beans more. I mean, at all, I haven't yet, but I'd be curious to see if they use any type of computational AI for parts of it, because they're doing some pretty advanced calculations in there too, from what he was telling me.
And I mean, it kind of along with my, AI dream of having an AI assistant helping me with audio calibration. I mean, that could also be another facet to it is AI calculations to tell you where to put acoustic treatment. Just so it's, it's like, all right, you're getting reflections here, so you need to put acoustic treatment that is such and such inches thick here, and then you need some on the ceiling over here as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see both of those being really beneficial to really just taming your room in its reflections.
Now, this is actually something that would be pretty cool. Imagine, I don't want to say it now. Like, what if somebody does this? And no. So okay,
I want to cut.
Right? Hey, man. So here's a question: are people willing to install an advanced set of permanent mics and unit for measuring if it means rapid room/system tuning? So think of like, and he goes on to say mics, lidar, accelerometers. So imagine that you have similar to like how VR headsets work is like you typically have sensors you install that basically know where you are within a 3D space, right?
Yeah.
In your room. So imagine you have something similar in your room. And this is kind of future thought here. This isn't like, I don't even think this is not possible. But you have these sensors that detect where you're sitting. So it detects like people, where your speakers are, and it's literally depending on where you're sitting, it's dynamically tuning your system based upon your seat. You don't have to touch a thing. You can say, I want a little more bass. It's like, okay, let me raise it. Like you're not dealing with house curves or anything. Like it knows by default, it's going to be flat. You sit in your seat and just like you get in a car and you adjust the bass and treble controls. You do it until you adjust those until it sounds good to your ears. And then bam, it's like wherever you move, wherever your head is, it's positionally tracking your head. This is like, I know this is ridiculous to even talk about, but I don't think it's impossible. I think it's probably more, I mean, we're seeing it in headphones already with spatial audio tracking and stuff like that.
True.
So I think that's probably more the application, but it doesn't stop my brain from going, well, what about this? This would be kind of cool. But I don't know. Like I mean, it's definitely would be like a niche thing, just kind of like how everybody's like VR is going to be the next big thing. And yeah, it's out there, but it's not. I wouldn't consider VR mainstream at all. Like it's cool, but it's just not. It's not anywhere close to being mainstream right now. Yeah, that would be kind of like weird to see, you know.
Although, yeah, I mean, speaking of like the Apple Vision Pro, yeah, I could see, instead of having some sort of image projected on my floor or my ceiling or walls or something, I could see, putting on the Apple Vision Pro and having that AI assistant help me.
Yeah, the kind of like augmented reality thing.
Yeah, so it's like it's saying you need to put stuff here, you need to put stuff there, you need to tweak this and that.
Yeah.
Because it's there in the virtual space, but then as soon as I take the goggles off, it's gone.
Yeah.
So I could see that.
Yeah. Willie says by the time that tech, we're talking about like the audio stuff, I assume, is with us, we'll probably be watching entirely AI generated movies. I think by the time that's with us, our AI versions of us will be watching the AI generated movies. Right. Our consciousness will be uploaded to the cloud. we'll just be able to watch AI generated movies all day long, and it'll just look like those weird AI generated TV shows that people keep like uploading to YouTube and stuff. Like,
because AI robots will have taken over the world anyway, so we won't have any jobs,
hey,
and we'll all be living off of universal basic income. So we won't need to work. We'll just have to
hey,
entertain ourselves all
you just
day, every day.
you just summed up the movie I watched last night. AI's here to get us. Let's see here. But yeah, I think that obviously like AI isn't going anywhere. AI won't let itself go anywhere. It keeps permeating the very existence of space and time. Yes. But yeah, Eden's actually brings up a good point. I think the best current use for AI and audio would be to figure out the best house curve could easily gather the data. Yeah, and I think, again, I haven't used it, so I can't speak to how it works or if it works. But Joe and Tells Magic Beans does try to do something where it figures out the best.
That's the whole idea behind it. Gives you your own personal house curve.
Yeah. Not like based on like your personal preference. It's for your speakers in your room.
Yes.
That's what I'm curious to, because talking to him today, he's like, it's not uncommon for people to do it and like their house curve that they already like, it almost matches. Mm-hmm. Based on the room, or it's going to make micro adjustments here or there to like. So I'm just curious to see, what it like, how well it works. And yeah, Marv multi-QX gave my older receiver a breath of fresh air. I've been playing around with it on the 6300H, and it's pretty much a game changer. Even if you're just running, even if you're not using REW to do anything and you're just using like the mic that came with your receiver, that still does a pretty good job. You can even make it slightly better if you get like the $80 calibrated mic. That's been my experience anyway, so far. But I'll be doing a video sometime this week. Should be out maybe Friday or Saturday, talking about my general first impressions and
cool.
Fun
I know.
stuff.
To go along with that, I got an email yesterday or 2 days ago about a guy who was asking me, he's got an X3700H from Denon, and he was wondering, like with all especially with Dirac Live in particular, he's like, I know Odyssey isn't the greatest, so I was looking at the Onkyo 7100. Because it comes with Dirac Live built in. You don't have to get it as an additional purchase.
Right.
And he's like, should I upgrade to, or should I get the 7100 because it has Dirac Live and it's a little bit better than Odyssey? Because I'm at a point where I'm just not exactly impressed with my home theater system anymore.
Yeah.
And I just flat out told him, I was like, the 3700H is still one of the best bargain AVRs you can get on the market today. The 3800 is, it is a step above,
up. Yeah,
because you can do 4 subwoofers now. But I was like, just spend $200 to get multi-QX, because he wasn't even utilizing external amps yet either. So I was like, if you get the Onkyo 7100, that's honestly a downgrade, because you are forced to use the internal amps. It does not have a full set of pre-outs, whereas the 3700H does have a full set of pre-outs. So if you're not that satisfied with your home theater, get multi-QX so you can dial in your room correction even further. Then I would highly suggest investing in external amps, because that is going to give you better channel separation and detail that you've never heard before.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh man, I never thought about that. It's like, because the 7100 was on sale for like $549 or
Oh, okay.
something. So he was just curious if he should get that. I was like, no, man, stick with your 3700. It's still one of the best bargains you can get.
Yeah.
You're sitting on a gold mine.
Hey, man, you know. Yeah, Eden says I would go for direct for sure. The ease of use for the results are staggering. I agree. What I don't like about direct is how they have the multi-tiered system. So like you don't get everything for $200 or whatever it is, or like is it like if the baseline is included, then you have to pay for like their base. Their base subwoofer calibration thing, right? Like if you want to go into the advanced. Am I wrong?
Direct Live?
Yeah. I thought they had multi-tiered.
They do.
Okay. Yeah.
But multi-QX, yeah, you get it all in one package, right? Everything.
Yeah. The only thing I think they have a pro license, but I think that's more for like businesses or corporations that like are integrators that are like putting systems together, and I don't think there are any additional features in the pro other than you could just dole out tokens, like calibration tokens. So like someone pays you to do it, or pays you to like install it or whatever, then you give them a license, and obviously like if you're doing that, you're probably not paying the full price for the license or whatever as a business. So,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't used Dirac in years, but I do remember really liking the setup. It's also great that you can use a UMic with it. You're not like kind of pigeonholed to like just the Odyssey mics that came with your receiver or the $80 mic. But I think I think that they're both like multi-QX. This is kind of getting to a multi-QX versus Dirac thing. I can't really say for sure which is better. Their goal is to kind of both do the same thing, but they both have their pros and cons. Like, maybe a video one day on the multi-QX versus Dirac, like kind of the base for like what's a good
because I sure don't know the answer.
Yeah. I mean, they do have, I think he said, I only have Dirac for mini DSP, and that has its own really good base management built in. Yeah. I mean, I've heard great things about the upgrade because I just have the 2x4 HD. I've never really looked at getting Dirac on the mini DSP because it just didn't really seem like an extra like $200 I wanted to spend, or however much it is. Although mini DSP would probably give me a upgrade if I emailed them, because
probably
all I got to do is send them a link to how many mini DSPs I've sold over the years and mics. They'd be like, "What do you want?"
Right?
Yeah, it's a lot, guys. It's a lot. I was actually surprised. I think I've sold close to like 200 mini DSPs over the past 3 years or something. Yeah, like through my link. I haven't sold them personally, but like. People through the Amazon link or whatever. Yeah. It's weird. It's crazy to me. It's just like, wow, it adds up,
Yeah, sure.
Let's see. That is Gary Pye again. I should probably star these for answering later, but does multi-QX handle impulse response? Dirac was such a huge upgrade for me. I wish it did. That's my biggest beef with it. It does not handle impulse response. And it's actually pretty bad at determining speaker distances and getting those aligned properly. So yeah. Again, I'll save the rest for the video, but I'll have like examples to show in the video and stuff.
Like you compared it to the distances that RAW came up with?
Well, I time aligned everything myself based on the impulse response, which is a kind of the way that you should do it. Like it's basically saying each, like at your main listening position, each speaker arrives at the same time or thereabouts. You can only get it so close with like the Denon stuff. But you pick like a speaker, like your center, you physically measure it, you put that in, and then every other speaker you either add distance or subtract distance from it to get the impulse to line up perfectly. And it will also tell you okay, when you do a sweep, you look at the impulse response and okay, where is the impulse peak? Is it up or is it down? Is it match? And that will tell you, hey, I need to reverse the polarity on my speaker.
Right.
Odyssey also doesn't pick that up. It had me reverse like my Atmos channels, or my height channels, which need to be
Even
kind of dropped down.
multi-QX?
Yeah, and I think, talking to Joe, what I think is happening is they're basing the impulse peaks off of like a set frequency. So they're not looking at like the initial impulse peak. Maybe they're looking at like 1K, 1 kilohertz.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dirac is much better in that regard.
Yeah.
But if you're like someone who likes to tweak things, like I do, it's not like a deal breaker.
Yeah.
But like if someone doesn't want to tweak anything, Dirac all the way. I'll just say that right now. Like it's a much easier system. As long as you don't mind buying a separate microphone. That's the only other gotcha. At least with multi-QX, if you want to, you can use the mic that came with your receiver. Mm-hmm. You can't use a U mic with that at all unless you want to go the REW route. So
is multi-QX not available on PC?
It is. It's not available on Mac.
But you can't use, it doesn't support the UMic one, even if you have it plugged into your
correct
laptop?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Again, that's something I'll talk about. I have a list of pros and cons that like talking points for the video that I'm like, man, I was like, I'm not being, obviously to probably never work with Odyssey again after this, but no, I think it's a realistic expectation. You spend $200 on a piece of software and you expect $200 of value. For me, like that's going to depend on the person, but for me, it's worth it. But for some other people, it might not be.
You would think impulse response would be like one of the basic things that it should support.
Yeah. I mean, Dirac's kind of got a whole section. Like that was the one thing I noticed when I used it years ago was like what it did to the impulse response, and how it like dealt with phase. Like I don't think at the time nothing else did that. It was just Dirac. And now like we have like Trinov and ArcGenesis and all that stuff. Like ArcGenesis is like, I think people even consider it above Dirac in terms of like room correction and ease of use.
I know. You heard it here, folks.
Hey, yeah. But yeah, I think we kind of went off topic there a little bit, but yeah, I think I think we definitely have not seen like the last, like AI is not going anywhere. I think it's only going to become more prominent as time goes on. A lot of displays you buy today have smart features that have AI in the name, right? Like AI brightness or AI room detect or what, like it'll detect the brightness of your room. And it really, like for someone like me, it's like, I'm not going to use that stuff, but for other people, maybe they are really like into it and or I mean, I'm not into it. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Maybe they're really like, they have a room that they don't have curtains they can close all the time, or it's brighter in the day and stuff. So they need, something like that. I do think that like, if we're talking about like display calibration, there's also like room there. Like we've kind of like, I remember calibrating displays back in like 2010, 2011, and it was all manual. There was no like thing that you could just hit a button and it did everything. You had to go in and adjust like the red, green, and blue sliders for your grayscale to get them all lined up. And then you go to the next one and you make the adjustments there, right? Then you have to go back and because they each affected each other. Whereas now with Calman Home for LG was like insanely easy. It's literally like a few clicks of your mouse and like it does it all for you. Like you just sit there and watch it run through these patterns, and it's like literally like their little algorithm program or whatever is like you could. And what's crazy is like when you watch it, you can see like the pattern on your display. The initial one that comes up is like maybe blue, like it's too blue, and you can actually look at the like RGB chart on your laptop screen, and it's like definitely too blue, and you'll start to see it come down, and then like the red, green, and blue sliders will go up, and basically it's going. We need to level this, but we also need this specific like brightness output to match the gamma for the, and it's like doing all of this for you. You don't like, I'm not adjusting anything. It's like literally an automated process. And I think that will only get better with time. So yeah, I mean, I think display calibration is probably much easier for AI to kind of step in and, cause we have like, imaging devices like colorimeters and colorimeters. I've heard it pronounced both ways. Weird. But like spectroradiometers and all these like really expensive stuff. But like, again, it's like something that like AI is kind of taken over or could take over that.
Yeah. What would you call it again?
Kalman Home for LG. It is unfortunately not free. That's the biggest gotcha. So it does, if you're considering like a professional calibration and you don't mind spending the time to do it yourself, you can save quite a bit of money. But you are going to spend time. Each picture mode takes about an hour to calibrate. Wow. But again, I literally was sitting there watching YouTube on my iPad the whole time.
How much
until I needed it. So the Kalman Home for LG was it's $150 for 1 year, and then if you want to upgrade to the newest version, which you don't have to, you get to another $150.
Why would you need to upgrade?
Basically, when like a display reaches like end of life or is no longer supported, you kind of have to upgrade. So like if I, for instance, wanted to like go out and buy like a new LG G4, like new OLED or something, right? I'd have to get another a subscription to that, so $150 for the year, and that will support that model and any model before that.
Yeah.
But it's just that the one I have now, my subscription lapsed like a year ago. I haven't like updated it or unlocked it, but I can still use the program. It's just like, if I don't pay, I can't upgrade to the latest whatever. Which again, I'm not changing TVs, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, like you're not getting a new TV every year. So.
Yeah, and then a colorimeter. Gary actually asked a good question. So that's just for the software. You do need a colorimeter or a colorimeter. Basically, the one I have, I actually have it back here. Hold on. It's in the box. So this is the one I use. It's the Color Checker Display Pro. This will go up to 1,000 nits. Wow. So perfect for an OLED. They make ones that go up to 2,000. This was 280. They last a pretty long time. You can use it for multiple things, like my laptop. I use it for my computer, like my monitors and stuff. You can use it for a bunch of different stuff. But yeah, that one costs like 280. I think the one that goes up to 2,000 nits costs, or maybe this was 250. I don't know. It's around 300 for the other one. And again, they, for me, it made sense because I use it to calibrate, all of my monitors, my laptop. So when I'm making YouTube videos and all the color correction stuff, I know what I'm looking at. Even when I don't use scopes, which are like, basically, well, Elon knows what scopes are, but they're basically a way to like look at an image and see like, oh, is it overexposed? Is it underexposed? What are the color values and stuff? When I'm like, everything's, like accurate to like a set standard. But yeah, so you're looking at, let's just say 150 for the software, 250 for the meter. So $400, not cheap. Wow. Yeah. Now that is that's an okay meter. However, if you want something more expensive, there is I think it's the C2000. This was actually recommended to me. Like if you're really serious about accuracy, let me see how much it is.
Yeah. Cause when you mentioned that, I was thinking, what's the more expensive version? I really want to spend more money on this.
Yes, I know. Let me see.
Since I'm not as familiar with video or just display calibration as you are.
Yeah.
Do you need to run calibration at different times of day because of the brightness?
No, normally what you do there is you would most displays have like a ISF dark and an ISF day or night and day mode. You would just calibrate the day mode to like a higher nit value, but only for SDR. You can't really do anything for HDR.
Yeah.
What you could do there is just adjust your gamma control during the day. But like for like if you really want to be in like a dark room, where is it? Oh, so the C6 is what it is. HDR 2000 is $795. Now, this was recommended to me by Jason Dustle, who is a local calibrator here in kind of the Central Florida area. He's like a professional calibrator, ISF certified, great like guy. I was talking to him at M-Wave last year about this stuff, and we recently like reconnected and like spent an hour on a phone call just chatting about shit. He was like, yeah, dude, if you want to calibrate your own display, and you don't want to have to keep, because basically it's kind of like almost like maintenance. It like, especially with OLEDs, things drift over time, right? Sure. It's kind of like your car. You know, eventually you're going to need alignment on your wheels, and you're definitely going to need an oil change and things like that. It's kind of like that, where like settings drift over time, especially as the display ages. So you need kind of like an update, but like, you know, you'd be looking at $500 or $600 once a year to recalibrate a display. Whereas like you get this, yeah, it's expensive, but you can do this as many times as you want. You don't have to pay, you know, a professional come out, and it will probably get you, I mean, here, I'll just share my screen. Cause like some of these colorimeters and spectroradiometers are not cheap. Let's see here. Entire screen. Here we go.
Why does everything cost so much?
Dude, tell me about it, man. It's thank you for highlighting that, Elon. Here we go. So switch over here. Can I I'm clicking on the actual screen. And I do that all the time. So here is this the portrait display C6 HDR 2000, which is $795. That does not include a Kalman like software. The other thing that you have to keep in mind is some of these meters that you see on here are only will only work with like the actual Kalman software, not Kalman Home for LG, which is more of like a consumer thing, right?
Oh.
This requires like professional software, so you can see like if we go Kalman Ultimate's $3,000, Kalman Studio is 2,000. Like this is honestly, if you're like one of these people that are really serious about this, then yeah, this kind of makes sense. Because like you may have multiple displays, you just like doing this, right? However, like if you just go to consumer software, you can see they have a few different ones. You know, Kalman Home for LG, Panasonic, Samsung, Sony, Philips. But yeah, this is like 145.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if we go over to meters, you can actually look. So the C6 2000 was 800. Then we get into like the spectroradiometers that are like 8,500. The Klein K10, which is a very, very popular colorimeter. It's like $7,000. And what's popular to do with these is actually to take this. You can even rent this from some places, which I would, if you're going to do that, you know, like don't go and buy this, rent it. And then you could profile like that $250 meter with this meter and get the majority of the like accuracy for much less. Right? Like that's something you could do, but like we're getting kind of too far into the weeds with that.
I mean, if you just have one main TV, it seems like it would be, you know, better just to hire somebody to come out and do it.
Yeah. I mean,
because they will then have those really expensive tools that they use all the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, software and whatnot.
Exactly. Now, like for someone like you or I, though, who does video production for a living, essentially, having like a $250, you know, damn it, with the freaking thumbs up, having something like this, focus,
Yeah.
is beneficial for you and I because we can calibrate our monitors. Even though our monitors may look great, they may be off color wise. So this makes more sense for like Elon and myself. And then this is also a bonus because I could calibrate my display as long as I purchased the Calman Home for LG. So in that respect, it's actually like pretty inexpensive. I mean, I've calibrated my OLED probably 4 or 5 times now.
Wow.
Basically, like every 1,000 hours, I calibrate it. But if I'm just kind of feeling like, oh, man, let me see where it's at, I can just pop the meter on there and open up Calman and just do like I don't have to calibrate anything, but I could see how far off the calibration has drifted, and if it's worth spending the time. So that's another thing. But again, I like doing that kind of stuff. It's not for everyone, that's for sure. And I'm not saying like everyone needs to go out and do this. A lot of sets these days out of the box are pretty great, but the reason I did this honestly is the LG C1, which is what I have. If you Google it, it has a notorious problem with black crush out of the box, and the only way to fix it is let it kind of run for 100 hours or so, and then calibrate it, and that will pretty much like negate the black crush. I remember watching a couple shows like in the first 100 hours, and I was like, good luck watching Game of Thrones. Yeah. You're not seeing shit in that show.
It's dark.
Yeah. That's a good question. How much has your OLED changed over time? Honestly, it's been pretty good. Like basically the biggest amount of change happened within the first 500 hours, I would say. Kind of settling in. When I first got it, there was some kind of nasty, like DSE, like dirty screen effect. Like, some of the areas of the screen on certain gray patterns had like some splotchiness, and that's pretty much all gone away now. I'm at like, I think around 3,000 hours. No, that's not right. About 2,500. Because I just it just asked me to run like the big pixel refresh cycle, which is like every 2,000 hours on the C1. But it's kind of,
can you go into the settings and see how many hours the display has been on?
Yeah. Maybe like if you have this, because you have like the C7, C9. I think you can. If not, you can go into the service menu and look at that, which I have done. Don't tell anybody. Shh. I disabled some of the burn-in prevention because it was annoying me. We'll see if I get burn-in later. Who knows? But so it's changed slightly. It's maybe I think every 500 hours that kind of starts to shift more towards the blue, like the gray, especially the grayscale. So things kind of take on a bluer tone. I actually haven't stuck the meter on there for a while, so I'm curious to see, like, it's probably been around 700, 800 hours since I did a calibration. So yeah, again, I think I initially was like going to do a video on it, like on like how to do it, and I guess I need to kind of do that.
You should.
I should. Gary actually says, I'm assuming, Gary says, I'm assuming a cell phone camera isn't good enough to point at a pattern on the screen and adjust color. Unfortunately, no. It can actually make things worse in a lot of like aspects. Like I know Apple tried to come out with this thing where like you could put your phone up to the Apple TV screen.
Apple TV, yeah.
And Vincent Teo, who's like a big, like prominent video calibrator, he did video calibrations, but like he's pretty big on YouTube for like displays and stuff. Knows what he's talking about. He tested it and put a meter up to it, and it like the Apple 4K TV actually ended up looking worse after the calibration with his iPhone. So he's like, "Don't do it. Like, we have no idea what this is changing."
Right.
But yeah, Samsung also does something. I'm not sure about the cell phone calibration thing, if that's what you're talking about, but they do have like a Samsung home or Calman home for Samsung or whatever. It's not just LG OLEDs, but I think LG was kind of the biggest. LG and Sony were two of the biggest kind of proponents of that for a while. And it's working with those guys that, nope, we don't want to end in 1 second. Happens every time. Once we get to 2 hours, EV Mux is like, you guys are done.
Yeah. I think there were some general questions that we could start.
I do want to bring this up real quick. So Eden does mention that if you run off the stuff off the computer, I can save and change everything cheaper and easier through software. That is true. So like literally, if you run everything off a computer, you really just need a meter, because then you could just do everything through the computer. You won't need to do just the only thing that it won't apply to is if you change that picture mode into, like, say you go to watch a cable box. It's not going to like retain those calibration settings, but you can calibrate the PC and that'll like apply to pretty much everything outside of maybe some games here and there. But yeah, we had some general questions here.
GQ corner.
Yeah. Marv asks, does anyone else have HDMI CEC issues with the Apple TV 4K OS 17.4? I have not had any issues with it as of late. So I'm not sure. Although I haven't used it in like a week, so maybe it updated and borked something on mine too. I don't know. I tend to not turn the Apple TV on all the time. Yeah. I've been playing games lately, so yeah, just use I'm gonna turn in my geek card. I've been using the internal LG apps for Netflix and Disney Plus, just because I don't feel like messing with another like device. Just let me go on YouTube. Let me just go on YouTube or whatever.
Bye, Cyclonics.
Bye. A Batman villain asks, running a first gen ELAC debut. Am I wrong? That is Ra's al Ghul, right?
It is.
I can't. Maybe I said his name wrong.
Ra's.
Ra's
al Ghul.
Your daughter is Talia, right? Anyway, running a first-gen ELAC debuted sound system 7.1.4 with separates. At what point is me getting a new front sound stage diminishing returns? Running auto EQ is already REW that much better. The front sound stage, like, are you happy? Like, the thing is, like, are you happy with your current sound? Is something off that you can't quite pinpoint? It's kind of hard to just like generally say, like, what do you find lacking in your current system that you think you would benefit from with a new front sound stage? If you're thinking of going with bigger speakers, or like, I would say honestly, if you're really thinking about upgrading the front sound stage, the center channel is like the most important speaker in your entire system. So maybe look at that. If it like something that's timbre matched with your current speakers, I'm not super familiar with the debut ELACs or ELAC debuts. I would definitely look and see if there was like a center channel upgrade you could do that you kind of slot into your current system that is timbre matched to the rest of your speakers. Because what you don't want is you don't want three, or like, your center channel being kind of was like timbre match one way, or like a certain sound, and it doesn't match with your front left and right. Like those three kind of need to match ideally.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, you're going to deal with some strangeness. Yeah, I would look at that. And then in terms of, unless Elon, you had anything to add to the front sound stage?
No, that's what I was thinking too. Just as long as everything's timbre matched.
Yeah.
Even if you do end up getting a center channel that's larger, then maybe try and have the same size woofers or something in your front left and right as well, what have you. So
yeah. And then he says running auto EQ is REW that much better. Yeah. It's just you're gonna spend a lot more time with Room EQ Wizard. So Room EQ, like, REW is that much better, but that comes at the cost of you have to put the work in. It's not just going to be like an instant thing, which is why like if I open up REW to do measurements, I got to block out the next hour or two
At least.
because I just go down a rabbit hole of, you know, especially if I'm like trying something out for a video or trying to get measurements for it. It just ends up being, let me try this. I want to make sure I can repeat that. But yeah, it does require a lot more involvement than like an auto EQ system, but the results can be astronomically better, or if you don't do it right, it can be marginally better. You know, if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Brochino, I just bought Magic Beans, no hookup. LOL. Should I get multi-Q or Dirac? I know it interfaces with both, I believe.
It does, yeah.
But Joe,
well, like you were saying with impulse response, you should probably go with Dirac.
Yeah, unless Magic Beans handles it. I don't know yet. I don't know yet.
Because I know, like the whole thing about Magic Beans is that you can take the calculations that it performs, and then just automatically put it into either Dirac or multi QX, that kind of thing. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I think either one, honestly. Just know, I think with Dirac, I don't know. Like I know with multi-EQ, the biggest thing with that is it's tied to a specific receiver. So if you get multi-EQ now and upgrade your receiver in 2 years and it has multi-EQ, you have to buy multi-EQ again because that doesn't transfer to a new receiver. I'm not sure if Dirac is the same, but like with Dirac, you have to get a receiver that is Dirac capable. And then if it has like Dirac built in, you should be good to go. But then like certain Denon or Marantz receivers do have an optional $200 upgrade. I think in that instance, you may have to spend money again. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's transferable. Oh,
yeah.
Eden's just said that Dirac does not transfer.
So. Okay, so either way, yeah, you're gonna.
That's lame.
It is
because like for example, my Adobe license, I can transfer it to another computer if I want.
Yeah.
Like if I upgrade, yeah, exactly. I can have up to 2 unless I get like the business license or whatever. But
but even then, you can literally if you're like, okay, I only have the 2, like I have 2 computers, and then you get a third one for travel or whatever, right? You can just deactivate one of your other computers and put Adobe on that. So I'm like, this kind of like arbitrary like license tied to a specific receiver is kind of stupid. I wish it was like just like you just create an account and it's tied to that, and as long as that calibration or that license is attached to your account, similar to how Windows is, like if you connect it to your like Microsoft account, you could literally use that Windows license, even though technically you're not supposed to. You could transfer it to a new computer with a new motherboard and everything. You don't even need to, buy a new license, although you can get them pretty cheap. So, probably just not worry about it. Yeah. Let's see. Question: should on TV settings set sound to PCM or DTS 2.5, which is fiber optic to receiver? Thanks.
PCM or DTS?
I mean, so here's the thing, like, depending on what, this is kind of like a hard question to answer without knowing more. Although I will say if you're going fiber optic, so let's just say you're going optical, which is, I think is what he's meaning.
That's what I gathered.
So like a Toslink cable. PCM will only give you 2 channels. DTS will give you it will be lossy, but it will give you 5 like 5.1. It'll max out at 5.1. Like if you watch like Netflix or something, I would probably say DTS, although like it would probably just re-encode it like from Dolby Atmos to DTS or something. I don't know exactly. PCM would be lossless, but you're limited to 2 channels.
Although there is multi-channel PCM.
Yeah, but over optical, that's the limitation.
Right.
Like, yeah, you're not going to get anything past two channel on optical for PCM at least.
Yeah.
Let's see. Show any more questions before we sign off here. Oh, hey, Tyler's here. He just showed up. We're just ending the stream, Tyler. Hey, what's going on?
You're so stout.
Hey, but thanks for stopping by, man. I'm sorry, like we've been going for 2 hours here now, and I love it. I block out a weekend when I do REW. Dude, I did some tests this morning. It was going to be a quick little thing. Took me an hour and a half. Just literally ended up doing like 60 measurements. Just comparing different things with multi QX because it's fun. So
I know every time I tell my wife that if I'm working in the office here and I tell my wife I'm going to be home at a certain time, she always adds like at least 20 to 30 minutes to what I said.
Yeah. It's kind of like when I tell
my wife out that way.
Yeah. It's like when I tell my wife, hey, I'm going to hop on a call with Elon really quick. She knows that it's going to be about an hour at least. And then I'll just like, once Elon starts crying that he's hungry, that's time to go. So real quick. Yeah. I got to go, but let me ask you. No. But I think that's going to wrap up this live stream podcast. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Elon, do you have any closing thoughts, arguments?
Physical media for life, baby.
Yeah. We'll see. Okay, look at this. Oh,
double gives you that?
You know what I love? It cannot handle it.
Yeah,
it just like, flakes the F out. Like, it just can't do it. So yeah, we will physical media for life. Check out Elon's channel. Check out the podcast version of this. If you're catching the tail end, you don't want to rewatch the live stream because you get jealous of these faces. I'm kidding. If you just want to hear an audio version, podcast version of this episode will be up tomorrow on all your podcast platforms. I just want to thank you guys so much for joining. It was great having the involvement tonight. We will be back again next week talking about something different. We don't know yet. We're going to figure that out. But should be an awesome time. Hope you guys can join us next week, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And we will catch you next week, guys. Take care.
Bye.